is the all is lost moment?
The all is lost moment is the moment when we think there's no good outcome for the character, where it's just about, the character's not going to get what he or she or they want. It's just going to be, it's a disaster scenario. There's only one way, and it's going to be horrible. And, there's usually, almost always, an opportunity to turn that around, to kind of discover something new, or to think of it a new way, or to renegotiate what's wanted. I think a really good all is lost moment for me, when I witness it in a movie or a TV show, it usually sort of brings tears to my eyes, because I feel that kind of human, I feel the sort of the mortality of that character, like that person's not going to make it out, and then usually they do. So that's, it's like, how do you do that? How do you engineer that? I think it's a beautiful, if you can do it really well, it's a beautiful addition to a script.
Does the main character always have to reach that rock bottom moment?
Dramatically, it's a good place to see a character reach a rock bottom moment. I do think it's harder if you're doing episodic TV and you got to do that every week. It becomes a little less believable. And then I think what we end up doing is we kind of end up sort of shuffling who hits a rock bottom moment. In an adventure show, you can't necessarily put your lead character, in mortal danger every week, but maybe every fifth episode, maybe it's the supporting characters who have that, that desperate moment in episode 2, 3, and 4, and then you come back to the lead character doing it. I think in some sort of one-off, in a play or a film, it's a great thing if you can do it, and it's all a matter of how you set it up and how you sculpt it and how you can sort of put it down. And not every piece needs to do that, but I certainly think it's effective.
How does a writer know what the all is lost moment is for their main character?
I think if you establish well what the character wants, and you get to a point where that character is not going to get it ever, then you've hit that space. And, it's entirely possible that you can get to that moment with a character and then decide that the character is going to walk away without whatever he, she, or they thought they needed to get. That it's not possible, which is a kind of sort of a grief space. You can definitely hit that moment where it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to recover my relationship or my child or my job or my dignity, or I just have to walk away from this. This is not a useful pursuit for me. You can definitely have that moment.
How does this moment change the main character?
I think hopefully there's some new insight on the other side of that moment. Either that the character's more resourceful than the character thought that they were at the beginning, or that the character doesn't need what they thought they needed, or that the character has other options. I feel like that's what that moment is all about. Like that there's some other way of being moving forward, and that, that it can be discovered, which I think, one of the reasons why I believe we all are watching TV and movies and plays is to learn something about survival and life. It's about the human condition and, storytelling that tells us what's possible as people. And I think the notion of coming out of an all is lost moment, recognizing that there's still the opportunity to survive and thrive on the other side of whatever tragedy, trauma, difficulty, challenge there is, to me that's like it's a huge way of modeling courage and persistence for all of us, you know, that we can keep going, that I can keep going, even after hitting moments that seem impossible, that there's something on the other side of impossible. Like, I think that's a really good thing to know about, to carry with me, that I can survive and that I can move ahead like we all can. I feel like that's what these stories model for us.
Is instilling hope in a story important to you?
I think it is important. I really like stories that are life-giving. I know that's not true for everybody, but for me, I have, you know, like everybody, like I will watch the news, and I've moved through difficulties and tragedies and challenges, and the sense of that it's worth it to keep at it, whatever it is, your life, your art, your job, your relationship, your health. Yeah, I feel like that's essential stuff. I feel like on some level that I'm on the planet to do that, to do some version of that. Not in like a treacly sort of like, you know, pat sort of stereotypical or stale way, but in a way that's actually, that feels like, you know, the other side of a good conversation, or the other side of a good, you know, TED Talk or something. Like, you know, there's a space of real hope and revitalization that I think is essential to, you know, humanity, that we know that there's more, that we can do more, that we can be better. I think that's really what it's about.
And so you take that with you, or try to, with all the stories that you
I try
write.
to, yeah, even with the difficulty in it. You know, one of the things my mother has said to me, which I think is really interesting, and I don't, you know, because I'm more on the magical realism side than the horror side. But my mother said she's fascinated with horror and true crime stuff because the stories that she watches have the space of justice triumphing on the other side, so that you can face, you know, the evil, the difficulty, the madness, and then sort of see that there is something on the other side that you know, points toward redemption, that points toward like upliftment, and I really believe in that in stories, even the darkest stories, especially the darkest stories, because I feel like that's, you know, that's partly what entertainment is here to do. I feel like that's what I'm here to do, is to instill some hope in the middle of darkness, because there's so much darkness and there's so much hope.